All right, so good day to all my podcast listeners. Again, this is Brian, your host for Inspiring Educator. So, for our 11th episode, we're very lucky. This time, I'll be having another colleague of mine from social and emotional learning. She's an educator, an Indian educator, but she's now living in the United States. So let's all welcome Natasha Agrawal. Natasha, hi, good morning.
Hi, Brian. Good to be here with you.
Oh, thank you very much. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Perfect.
It's a beautiful Monday morning here.
Nice to start the week with a blast again. So I'm very honored to have another colleague of mine from social and emotional learning panel. So to start off, to all my listeners, we wanted to know who Natasha is. So Natasha, could you introduce yourself for us, please?
Okay, so I am from India. I grew up in New Delhi, but I have been living in the United States for almost 30 years. And out of the 30 years, for over 15 years, I have been an educator in New Jersey. And I am also a mom and a homemaker, and I love to enjoy all the good things of life. I guess that's that's what I can say about myself.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you've been in the United States for almost 30 years and then 15 years in the education industry. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Wow. So I guess you face lots of different kinds of learners, from the young ones up to the teenagers. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. I have taught everything from preschool to adults.
Wow.
And
really
most
amazing.
things in the middle. Yeah.
Really amazing. Now, up to my second question, Natasha.
Sure.
I asked all my guests in here, and we wanted to know, of all the courses that's out there in college, why did you choose education? How did you end up as an educator?
So I feel there is nothing more important than education. Everything we do and say depends on how we were educated and how we were taught to think. And so that was just a natural choice for me to become an educator. And also when my own children started to go to school, I found that the education here in the United States was quite different from the way I was educated in India. And I was very curious about it. And so I went back to do my master's when my own children were in elementary school and middle school. And I just wanted to know, how does it work here? Because the way they would come back and tell me about things that happened at school was not the way I imagined school to be, and they were not my kind of experiences. So I was very eager to find out how things work here, and I was very lucky to get a chance to go back to grad school when my children were growing up and enter the education field as a second career.
Wow, that was really nice. Curiosity led you to become an educator. Did I got it right?
Yes, absolutely. I used to volunteer at my kids' schools, and I used to find that the way things were taught was so different. The way the teachers interacted with students, that really struck me as something very different. And I was just like, wow, it's something to be explored and something to be learned while I'm here. So that's what it was.
That's great. That's great. So I'm a little bit curious. So you mentioned that you took your master's degree in the United States, but you took your bachelor's degree when you were still in India. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, I see. That's why when you arrive in the United States, you're really curious how does education works in the United States compared in India. So out of that question, I'm really interested. How did you find it out?
Okay, so in India, I did my bachelor's in English literature, and then I continued with doing a master's in Indian history because I was at that time working in a museum. and was really got interested in ancient India and artifacts and documenting all that. And it was just a lot of lectures and answering 3-hour exams and writing essay type questions, and that was my experience of doing a master's in India at that time. And then when I did my master's here, it was very different. Firstly, it was 2 semesters, fall semester and spring semester, and the whole course was within 14 weeks, and everything was assessed almost weekly. And the biggest difference was that we had to do our own research and present. So I think getting up in front of an audience and presenting what you've researched, that I thought was something quite different. While in India, we went to the source, we went to libraries, we made our notes, and then we answered it in our long essays and our exams, which were timed. So that I thought was very different, and I think that's what develops confidence here in grad school. So that would be the biggest contrast, between the two systems.
Interesting. And hearing that kind of story from you, it also I would say that I'm not the only one who wish to know the difference of education, because here in our country, in the Philippines, education system is somehow really different from the United States. But hearing how did it work in there from you, now I'm starting to be more interested, because as an educator, it wouldn't stop. It is a continuous learning. So
yes.
I'm very happy that you gave me and all the listeners an idea, because like I've mentioned, it's not just here in the Philippines that this podcast is being played through. All around the world, all the educators that I've invited, we are interested with the education system in every part of the world.
Yeah, and remember, this was a while ago in India, like in the 80s. So I don't know if things have changed in India now. I'm not sure. But at that time, what I remember were those 3-hour exams and just having to handwrite all our answers.
Wow,
you get a question paper and you get the answer sheets. And the answer sheets have to be the one that the exam person gives it to you. You don't bring your own, because that's like cheating,
For 3
and
hours,
and you just sit and write. Yes, you just sit and write your long answers. There's nothing like multiple choice or any of that, or talking about it or sharing your research. It's just writing the answers.
Wow,
So
it's really mind-boggling, taking an exam for 3 hours, an essay exam. Wow, you're gonna be exhausting all your ideas, all the vocabularies
yes.
that you've learned, right?
Yes, and you had to memorize all that. It's not that you had notes or open book or anything like that. You had to memorize
Oh
everything.
my God, that was really, I believe that you're really trained enough to be an educator.
What about in the Philippines? Is it different? What is the grad school like over there?
Oh, the grad school in here, usually you're going to be taking it. Yeah, it would depend on the semester, but usually it will be 2 semesters, and then it's also a research wherein you need to, create your own research.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then it should be applied on the degree that you're taking. For example, it's like for school management, the research must be beneficial for school management. If you're taking up master's degrees for linguistics, it should be always related. You cannot simply, think of an existing research. You need to create something new. So it was really, it was really exciting, yet is really difficult. So, everyone is excited to take masters. I'm not sure, but me personally, really excited to have that kind of degree as an educator. All right, so that was really
so
fantastic.
like I said, my experience is from the mid 1980s, so I'm sure things have changed a lot since
because
then.
of technology, right?
Yes, technology, curriculums, the way students are assessed.
Yeah,
But
that's right. But you know what, Natasha? I enjoy the traditional ones because it trains your mind. You need to memorize, you need to do
Hmm.
research, you need to give all your efforts. Compared nowadays, there's the internet, we have Google. The technology serves us what we need to look for rather than before that we are exhausting all our efforts.
Yeah, I used to actually go to the National Museum in Delhi and I used to go to the library and like go look at original sources, So these were the old texts
Yeah,
that you
I've
had to
experienced
ask the
that.
librarian to open certain cabinets and he would bring the text out for you and you had to sit there. You couldn't take it home or anything.
Yes, I've experienced that. We also have that kind of library in here in Manila, Philippines, the National Library, wherein you're gonna be going there with lots of papers. You'll ask the chief librarian, "Ma'am, do you have this research about this?" And then she'll
Right.
serve you lots of books. You cannot take a picture of that.
No,
You just gotta write
exactly.
it down. So we brought lots of papers while we're doing
Yeah.
our research.
Yes, yes, exactly. I
Yeah,
remember doing that.
I was really lucky because I thought that, oh my God, is this the country or the only country that does this kind of research? But good to hear that Indians also, you experience that. So I'm not alone.
No, definitely not. I think there was a certain joy in looking at old texts and,
Yes,
handling them very carefully and knowing you had something original in your hand
I
and
know.
not on a screen.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. So,
Mhm.
off to the third question. I really had
Yeah.
fun time right now. So, off to the third question. Uh, we all knew that the situation is really new to us. This is, no one wanted this to happen. But
Mhm.
some are experiencing, negativity. Others are really depressed. So, we've been in lots of panels in the social and emotional learning. So, I wanted to know, how does Natasha makes her day positive? How do you turn your day? When we woke up in the morning, it's not always that we're gonna be at the right side of the bed. So,
Mhm.
how do you make your day positive, Natasha?
That's a good question, Brian. But I think my whole life philosophy is to live in gratitude.
Wow.
And I just feel like every morning I feel so blessed. You see the sun come out, and I live in New Jersey, so it's very green, it's very beautiful. The weather is just perfect right now. There's just so much to be thankful for. My family is here in my home, my mother is here, and I mean, there's countless blessings. So there's really nothing I can complain about personally, and always keep looking at the bright side of things. I just feel the blessings outnumber the grievances, you know, and that's the way to approach life. And challenges, I feel there are so many challenges, and you're right, we live in such challenging times. So challenges have to be seen as learning experiences. If you get something out of the challenge and you get some life's truth or some meaning out of it, then it's a situation that's taught you something, and it was there, it happened to teach you something, to take you to the next better place. And yeah, that's how I approach everything.
Wow.
And also to step away from things and not to take things too personally, not to get like irritated with things. Like, there's so many more people who are suffering so much more, so I can't complain about anything. It seems very trivial for me to complain
Wow, that's
or be
really
depressed or
lucky.
anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, just you know what, Natasha, hearing that you're living life in gratitude. You're always thinking of that. There's always things that would challenge us, but having a positive perspective that this challenge was given because there's a purpose. It was
Right.
really something to look upon. I try to do that most of the time. That's why, as you've seen me during our social and emotional learning
Mm-hmm.
panels,
Yeah.
I'm all, even if it's already late at night, I'm still, have that positivity, because I also try to live that kind of life wherein every morning you must be thankful and, start your day with already a positive output, even if you're not feeling well, but, thanking that you just woke up, your eyes opened up. That's
Right.
really something to look upon every day.
Mm-hmm.
And like you
Absolutely.
mentioned, you said that your family is one of the reasons. That's also another good thing that I, learned from this interview that we're having right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm also really thankful that I had this opportunity to talk to different educators from around the world, because each and every one of you has their own idea. Everybody is unique. That's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
really, blessed to have all of you here, especially you guys who've been with me in the social and emotional learning team, because we've been inspiring for almost a few months. And
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
how I
I'm
wish,
glad to be part of the team too.
yeah, how I wish we could still do it every Wednesday and Thursday, but classes are about to start, so we
Yes.
need to live up the educator's life again. But yeah, I'm really thankful to Armin, to you, to Mar, to other educators that I've interviewed. This is really, you know, it helps not just me again to be positive every day, but everybody who would listen to this podcast, whether you're an educator, whether you're
Mm-hmm.
a learner, whether you're just, a parent, this is really something that I would be proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think even if you find one thing that you're grateful for at that moment that you're listening, just find the one thing that makes you happy. And you have to find it within yourself. It's not out there, it's within yourself.
Wonderful, wonderful, Natasha. So, off to the final question before I give to you the podcast floor, if you wanted to, promote something. Now, to my final question for you. As
Okay.
an educator, Natasha, how do
Mm-hmm.
you inspire your learners? What's your secret? What are your tips, your techniques that you could share to our fellow listeners?
I think the important part of being an educator is to be a good listener and to be a good observer. So if you are in a classroom, really listen and observe your students' body language, the words they use to communicate. So you get to know your students, and also focus a lot on building relationships with your students. I think that's really important, relationship building. And you have to make people feel that people feel visible and important. That for me is key, I think. So for instance, even if you have a very large class of students, make sure you know their names and make sure you pronounce them right, because for educators like me, who teach English in the US, we get students from all around the world, and we get names that are unusual for us. And so my one tip would be to make sure you pronounce your students' names correctly. Get to know a little bit about them, their homes, where they've come from, or like in your situation, maybe what their hobbies are or what makes them happy. Just even if you know a little fact about your students, that makes a huge difference. Just for that student to know that my teacher knows me and cares for me and bothers enough to know my name and pronounce it correctly. I think that itself is a big thing. And I think for educators, especially of young children, it's very important to realize that you can make or break a life. The way your attitude towards your students can really affect them for the rest of their lives. So if you feel that, if you realize the power that you have as an educator, that is really important. That will take you a long way to really improving people's lives, because that's what you're there for. So I think, in short, that's what I would say. Build good relationships. Make sure your students feel that you see them and you hear them, and realize that it's up to you to change your life. So yeah, short and simple.
Yeah, definitely. And what I love with your, the way that you inspire your students is that, just like you mentioned, know them by simply
Yeah.
pronouncing their name right. By acknowledging them properly, it
Yes,
always makes them feel that, oh, my teacher cares for me.
exactly.
And what I love with what you just shared is that, as an educator, we're the ones who's gonna be, for the young ones, we're the ones who's gonna be make or break it for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
realized it right now because I've started teaching students in the senior high school level, age
Mhm.
16 to 18. But thinking the educators of the young learners, I just realized that they have the, how will I say this? I don't know if this is the right term, but they have a heavy job on their shoulders that, wow, as a teacher of these young minds, it depends on us whether they will be, they'll move forward, or will they stay like this, or worse
Yes.
is to be moving down.
Because our words matter, the way we use our words, the way we call our students, the way we give our encouragement, all that really matters. And what kind of praise we give them. Do we praise them for their intelligence, or do we praise them for their efforts? Even that matters. And some things, especially as a young child, you remember forever. I'm sure you have an incident in your childhood
Yes,
that you
I still
probably still
remember.
remember. And you probably still remember the teacher's face, even if you've forgotten the name.
Yeah, I've just
So,
realized it right now. I'm starting to imagine the phase of my teacher when I was in kindergarten. And good thing, Facebook, we are still connected. So,
oh, how wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm very thankful that, she still recognized me. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's why, I'm just, realizing right now, if only you could see my face, I'm trying to reminisce that time. And I've just learned that, yeah, it's not that, you could just, give learnings to your students by giving them lessons, quizzes, written works, research. But, as early as, the kids in the kindergarten, the way you praise them, like you mentioned, are you going to be praising them by their knowledge, or are you going to
Mhm.
be praising them because they did an effort, they did something good on that
Yes.
day?
hmm
So, wow,
Yeah,
this
it's
is,
very important to notice efforts, even if it's a small effort, and you notice it and you mention it. Like, oh, I see that you really tried to improve your handwriting today, or, something. It makes a difference in that child's life. So, yeah, to be observant and to be a good listener, I think those two qualities are really needed by a teacher.
really inspiring, Natasha. That's all I can say. You're really inspiring. We're
Oh, thank
trying to
you.
touch bases right now, but then you, as a, allow me to say this, as a senior educator for me, because I believe that I'm still new in this, I'm still in this learning path right now. So I was really, personally, was really inspired by the way, you've allowed me to think of, I must really be more connected to my students in a way that you know how to praise their little things that they're doing every day. Even if my students are in senior high school, but then, praise every little thing that they do, because in that way they could, remember you for a lifetime, right?
Yeah, and you never know, that piece of praise might last them for their whole life, and that effort that you praised will push them on. And you never, I think teachers never know what kind of impact they're having, because they're impacting an entire life.
You're right.
So Yeah, whatever you do, and I'm sure, Brian, you're very inspirational as well. But thank you for all everything you said about me. But I also feel that we all are still learning, and now that the learning environment has changed so much, suddenly we're teaching virtually. And for me, like, to not be able to listen as well, or and to not to see my students if they just turn their cameras off,
Yeah.
that is a huge challenge now.
Yeah, it's really challenging, but for us, those challenges are, we must really find a way. And thank you for the simple things that you've shared. It's really a big thing. I'm really, you know how I'm really excited, but this time, it made me realize lots of things that I still need to master. I might be good in doing certain things, but I still need to master how to make this connection with my students really work. And thank you for, teaching me that, praising little things is really important.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me your time and asking me to share my ideas. And we all learn from each other, Brian. So I
Right.
learned a lot on that SEL panel as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm
thank you
really
for being
happy.
part of that.
I'm really happy. So, like I promised with you, Natasha, I would like to give you or to have the opportunity to have the podcast floor right now. If you would like to promote, I know you have also a very wonderful podcast. So, this is the right opportunity to invite everyone. So, the podcast floor is all yours now, Natasha. Go for it.
Oh, thank you. So, yes, you mentioned I have my own podcast. I do. And I host it with another friend of mine who has been my friend since middle school. And since we are Indians living in the United States, the podcast is about people who have moved to the United States and their journey and their stories, because everybody has had challenges, successes, joys from moving from one culture to another, one country to another. And it's just documentation of women's stories. So it is called Chai and Chat. Chai because in India everybody loves to drink tea, and I know many cultures enjoy tea in different ways. So we also ask about that, like how do you like your tea and what's in your cup of tea? So just to throw the question at you, Bryant, is the Philippines a tea drinking nation, or what about you?
Yeah. Oh, whenever I wanted to relax, when you're really stressed, drinking tea, besides water, is really relaxing. It's a fine time if you'll allow me to say that.
Uh-huh. And yeah, so that's what the podcast is about. It's about sitting, drinking tea, and sharing stories. And I like to highlight the women because often the women's stories are not told as much, I think. So we have about 10 episodes already. Again, it's called Chai and Chat, and it's with Natasha and Aditi, my friend. And we just, because of COVID times and we can't really go out very much and sit around and actually have chai with each other, we have it virtually and we share stories virtually. And it's a lot of fun. Again, it's about connections, and I think I'm all about connections.
Wow, that was really nice. And I've listened with one of the episodes, and yeah. And by the way, I wouldn't, maybe I'll ask my wife to listen on it so that at least, because women empowerment is really an interesting thing for us because, as men, we really sometimes, we focus on lots of things and we seldom hear your story. So it's really good podcast to tell all my listeners in here. So if you're interested, have a listen to Natasha's podcast, all right?
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome, you're welcome. So any last things that you would like to share, Natasha?
I would just say that we are now facing a huge learning curve with COVID, teaching virtually, learning virtually. And, I'm just going with the flow. I would just say don't get overwhelmed, but keep upgrading your online skills and keep flowing. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Natasha. This is once in a lifetime experience, and I'm very happy finally that another colleague from Social and Emotional Learning Panel Group has been my guest again. From the bottom of my heart, Natasha, from the whole MOOC Philippine teams, thank you for being part of my podcast.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Philippines, and thank you, Social Emotional Panel, for bringing us all together and helping us share stories and inspiration. Thanks so much.
All right, so we had another wonderful guest by the name of Natasha, and she was really inspiring. Even me, your host, has been inspired. So that's all I can say for this moment, and I will be seeing you on the next episode of Inspirational Educators. Have a wonderful day ahead.